Hello and welcome to part 6 of the Storywriting Social with me, Simon Hall, and we continue our journey through the letters of the alphabet with Q. Any guesses what Q stands for? Don't forget you can pause at any time to have a guess. I'll give you a clue. Any guesses now? And I will reveal it to be quotability. By that I mean what your characters say. Sometimes they can just talk in an ordinary way, but some characters have become famous, renowned, lived through the years because of some of the things they say, whether witty or insightful or wise or rude or whatever. Let me give you some examples. Quotability quiz. See if you can tell me who said these words from literature. When the fox hears the rabbit scream, he comes a-running, but not to help. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Ooh. Guesses before I tell you the answer? That's Hannibal Lecter, of course, from Silence of the Lambs and the other films. And what a great character. Not a pleasant one, but of course lives through the years because of what he does, but what he says as well. Memorable quotability. What about this one? Excellent, I cried. Elementary, said he. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. It's my business to know what other people don't know. Easier one, I guess. Answers? Yes, that's Sherlock Holmes. And again, the quotability of what he says means the character helps the character live through the years. And interestingly, it doesn't just apply to fiction. You can have it in non-fiction as well. For example, look at these three well-known characters, and I'll give you a little quiz on these, some wonderfully well-known sayings from them. Tell me which is which. Being Prime Minister is a lonely job. You cannot lead from the crowd. Any guesses? One of two. That's actually Mrs. Thatcher. There is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. Who was that? Yep, Oscar Wilde. Courage is rightly esteemed as the first of human qualities because it guarantees all others. Pause if you want to have a think about it, but don't Google it. That was Winston Churchill. Be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Who was that? Oscar Wilde, that one. I don't mind how much my ministers talk, so long as they do what I say. Right to the heart of that character. Yep, that's Mrs. Thatcher. I can resist everything except temptation. Oscar Wilde again, yes. You have enemies, good. It means you've stood up for something sometime in your life. Excuse the impersonation. But of course, yeah, that's Churchill. The problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. Another straight to the heart of the character. Yeah, Mrs. Thatcher. And finally, history will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. Yeah, Churchill. So you see how quotability can really help you with your characters. Rather than just have them talking, think about what they say. Could it be witty, wise, funny, insightful, anything like that? And that can really help get them known and get your writing noticed. So just a little exercise, a bit of fun. You're welcome to pause after this while you think about it. Imagine what Churchill would say if he were leading us now going into the coronavirus crisis and inspire us all to get through it, look after each other and fight it and win. What would Churchill say? Pause that if you want to think about that for a while. Good little exercise, see how your imagination runs. And then we will move on to the next letter. So, moving on to R. Any guesses what R is? This is really difficult. I've made this very cryptic. I'll give you a clue. I'm not sure that clue is going to help much at all. Feel free to pause if you want to think about it. But what I'm thinking here is reinforcing. What do I mean by that? I mean subplots. When you write a story, you have one main plot. Classically, in murder mystery, like I tend to write, it's the whodunit. Someone gets killed, or several people usually. Who did it? Who was responsible for it? That's the main plot. But beneath that, there are subplots to add richness and depth to the story. There can be love interests, they can be petty rivalries, they can be all sorts of things. And subplots really help to reinforce your story, make it deeper, make it richer, make it more interesting. For example, look at the subplots in these famous stories, The Wizard of Oz. So assume the main plot is Dorothy wondering what's happened to her and trying to get back to Kansas. What are the subplots? Think about the characters she's with, the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion. They're looking for something, aren't they? Each of them, whether it's a courage, heart, whether it's a brain. So that's the subplots in there. They're trying to find their own quests within the main quest. And see how it enriches the story. It makes it deeper, more interesting. What about this one? Similar thing with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Of course, the main plot is Charlie trying to get to where the chocolate factory is to be part of that amazing place. But the subplots, think about the other children he's up against, Mike TV and Veruca Salt and Augustus Gloop and Co. They've got their own subplots and interesting moral lectures as well, with what happens to them, Roald Dahl's view of perhaps a problem which was coming later in life. And then finally, this one, and do this as an exercise. If you think Harry Potter is the main plot is him versus Voldemort, classic good versus evil, what are the subplots going on in Harry Potter? Well, there's lots of them. Think about the other characters, what they're looking for, whether it's to become wizards, whether it's to be seeing who they're going to end up with in terms of love interest, even whether Harry can become a seeker, be a good Quidditch player, or my favorite one about Snape, and whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, because we think all along that he's a bad guy, don't we? But a really interesting twist to that at the end. So reinforcing subplots can add depth, can add richness to your story. So think about the main plot, but also what else is going on. Other subplots can really help your story. And just for a little exercise, think about your favorite book or film. What are the subplots going on under the main plot? And why do you like them? What's clever about them? How do they keep you drawn into the story? So then moving on, pause if you want to think about that, but then moving on to the letter S. Any guesses what S might stand for? Again, pause if you need to. I'll give you a clue. How about that? That is a great big show. S is a bit of a cheat. It's not just one word, it's three. You probably got it. It's iconic, famous, not just in writing, but life. S is show, not tell. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can tell someone something, but it's much, much more powerful if you show them. And let me give you an example with some really bad dental hygiene. If you're my kind of age, or perhaps even younger, you remember when you were at school and you had to learn about oral hygiene, and the teachers told you it was really important to brush your teeth. But that kind of bounced off you, didn't take much notice. However, when you had to chew those tablets that showed the plaque on your teeth, remember that? Oh, look at that bottom picture. And when you saw that, you actually realized what it was like in your mouth if you didn't brush your teeth properly. Show, not tell. I could tell you it's important to brush your teeth, but I can show you, and it makes much, much more impact. And such is the case with writing. Rather than tell, show, and it makes a greater impact. For example, it was clearly an excellent wine. Well, I'm telling you that, it's an excellent wine. Tells you what's going on. It's a bit bland. What about if you said something like, the colour drew her eyes first. It was a deep blood red, lightened only by the sunshine flickering through the glass. The first scent was a sip in itself, rich and heady, making her mouth plead for a taste. Might have overdone it a bit, but you see what I'm saying. You can tell me it's an excellent wine, or you can show me with that second paragraph. Which one is more effective? Or this. The view was stunning, just 4 words, fairly bald and bland statement. Or you could say something like, the distant peak, an angle of snowfield through the cloud, thrust impertinently into the heavens. The wildflower meadows blazed with spring glory, and the faraway river was silvered with reflections of the sky. A bit more effective, draws you more into the scene, makes you feel more of it. So that's show, not tell. And that works not just in writing, but in life. You really get a much better sense of something when you're shown it, shown all about it, really feel it, than if you're just told about it. So let's do an exercise on show, not tell. I think you'll like this one. Nothing was going right for the poor Storywriting Social tutor. That's a straightforward, bland fact. I'm not having a good day, obviously. Or how could you actually show me rather than tell me? How could you show me that I was having a really bad day, that things were going wrong all the time, that I was having a really bad teaching session? Think about that. Pause if you like. Write a paragraph. See what you think. See what you come up with. And see how that could be much, much more powerful than just saying boldly, nothing was going right for the poor Storywriting Social tutor. Okay, let's move on then to our final letter of this session, and the letter T. Any guesses what T stands for? I'll give you a clue. You'll probably get it. It's a more straightforward one, this, but give you a clue anyway. Both of these characters from Monty Python, that's the Holy Grail, isn't it? Have these, whether it's the king or the knight. Yeah, I think you've got it. T is titles. Titles. Now, titles are often the last thing you think about in a story or a book or a presentation, but actually they should be one of the first because they're a shop window. They get people involved in what you're talking about. And titles, therefore, are very, very important. So let's have a look at the art of titles and see how good titles work. And I'm going to play a little game, as is my wont. I'm going to show you titles from newspaper headlines academic research papers, books and blogs. Tell me which is which, but we'll see how titles work from these. Dancing with your cat, book, blog, academic research paper, or newspaper headline. Pause if you need to have a think. That's actually a book. So just 4 words. Why does it work? Well, for me, it's the 3-letter I's. First of all, it interests you. It makes you, what? Makes you want to find out more, intrigues you, and also gives you some information as well. Information, interest, and intrigue. You've got a few words, so you have to make me go, make me want to find out more, and tell me a little bit what it's about. And see how that's repeated through other good titles. Bang, he goes to Hollywood. A pun on the old pop roof, of course. What's that? Book, blog, newspaper headline, academic research paper. Pause if you need to. Yep, that's a newspaper headline. And again, similar lessons. Informative, what it's about. Also makes me look twice and want to find out more. That's the art of titles. 12 weird tips to hit the top. Something in there that will give it away. And I think you probably got it already. Yeah, it's a blog. Because online is so fast and they like little bite-sized chunks of info. That list often works well online. So that's a blog. But again, makes you look, makes you want to find out more, tells you what it's about. The possibility of unicorns. Any guesses with that one? That is actually an academic research paper. And again, just 4 words does the same job. Says what it's talking about, but makes you go, whoa, and makes you want to find out more. Do woodpeckers get headaches? What's that one? Book, blog, research paper, headline? It's actually an academic research paper. The answer is no, apparently, but it takes a few words to get there, naturally. Elvis Presley's teeth to visit Malvern. You'll probably get that straight away. Yeah, my old profession. Yeah, it's a newspaper headline. You don't get to write things like that very often. But again, information, intrigue, makes you look, makes you want to find out more, interest you. This is a great one. Old MacDonald has a plan. He eyes IOUs. Any guesses? That's actually a news headline from The Spectator, I think. Isn't that great? Old MacDonald has a plan. He eyes IOUs. That's the old shadow chancellor, of course. And again, it works. It makes you smile. It makes you interested. It makes you informed. It makes you intrigued. And then finally, the propulsion parameters of penguin poop. What's that? Book, blog, academic research paper, newspaper headline. That's actually an academic research paper. So titles, you see how titles work. Only very few words, bit of information, what the story's about, but most importantly, it interests me, draws me in, intrigues me, makes me want to find out more. So just as a fun exercise, as our final thing together on this particular session, imagine a title for your autobiography. What would you come up with? Pause if you need to, just have a couple of minutes thinking, what would I come up with? I'd like to think My Glorious Career, but it's probably something more like Simon Who? Anyway, have a think about that for a minute. Okay, so just to recap then, for part 6 of the Storywriting Social, cue, quotability, the things that characters say. Don't just have them talking, sometimes say something really interesting, meaningful, wise, funny, insightful, strange, odd, whatever, just something that makes them a little bit more interesting, and that can help your characters and really help your writing. Then we had reinforcing plots, but subplots. You have your main plot, but underneath that, other plots adds depth and richness to your story. Can be character quests, can be love interest, can be rivalries, can be many, many things. But it actually helps the story move along, adds pace and depth. S, show not tell. I could tell you, or I can show you. Remember my oral hygiene example. Remember it and shudder. It's always more powerful to show than to tell, and not just in writing, in life as well. And finally, T, as we're looking at their titles, inform me what's going on in the story, but interest me, make me want to find out more, intrigue me. So that is part 6 of the Storywriting Social, the penultimate part. Hope to see you next week for the final one. But for now, goodbye.